job there. And I sat in there on fantastic, the inside of the shop. It had like an old army metal bed in there with a pink rubber sheet on it. And it was pretty crazy. And I spoke for probably about 3 hours with the manager and said I really wanted to work there. And he just looked at me and said, "Ooh, that'll do," because it was all on looks really.
Yeah.
And, I worked there for an afternoon and I was there for years. They phoned me up and said, "Can you work the afternoon?" And that was it.
Wonderful. Were you aware that that sex was going to turn into such a hub for the punk movement, you know, with Malcolm McLaren using it as his sort of base?
Probably not then, because it's really quite in the future. I knew I felt at home.
Yeah.
I knew it was a place that I could feel totally comfortable, and I was doing the same thing as they were. I was dressing sort of very similarly to the way that they were designing at that time, and it was like literally coming home, you know. You felt really, really comfortable. I felt so comfortable. The punk thing later, you know, that came on a bit later, after the rubber and the leather.
And the assessing people for their worthiness to wear Vivienne's designs, was that a big part of it or not?
Yes, in a way. I mean, it's true. It's like anyone who's an artist knows that they're very precious about their work. And they hopefully sell their work to somebody that will love it and adore it forever, and love it and adore it for the right reasons. Yeah. And we were like that, you know. Vivienne and I, Malcolm as well, would grill people. You know, why do you want to buy those shoes? Do you think you look good in them?
That's quite good, really. You know, because we all make mistakes and buy stuff. Yeah.
I mean, you almost had to sort of prove yourself, even though you might have had pockets of money. You still had to prove yourself.
When punk did take off, there was quite a moral panic, and that peaked during the Queen's Silver Jubilee in 1977. Yeah. I was thinking about the time when I think you were on the boat, the River Thames trip, right at the time of the Jubilee, when the Sex Pistols sang God Save the Queen right in front of the Houses of Parliament. Yeah. Do you think they were overtly political? Did they know that they were challenging the establishment? Yes, I do think they knew it. They were very much guided by Malcolm and Vivienne, true, but they weren't just puppets of a manifesto in any way. They knew what they were doing, all right. Was politics discussed then?
Not in a deep way. It's just it was an anti-establishment thing. I mean, you've got to remember this was a time of beige and a sort of taupe colour and brown. Every car was either grey or brown or a varying degree of it. It was a totally different world. Things have changed unbelievably in these few decades.
So was punk bringing excitement and colour?
Yeah. I mean, I've been interviewed in the past by people who are deeply political. I mean, like Russian. I went and had an interview with a Russian journalist, a very well-known Russian journalist, and I had black vodka around his house, and his wife brought out various foods and things, and he didn't understand it couldn't be deeply political. It could just be a statement of rebellion rather than having to have a side as such.
Oh, that's interesting.
His culture didn't have that middle ground at all of just wanting to be free. He didn't understand it at all. I
was thinking about your acting, and in Derek Jarman's film, Jubilee, you play the role of amyl nitrate, which is brilliant, and you sing Rule Britannia in that, and you do this sort of wonderful punk burlesque routine with sort of pole dancing around a trident. You know, it's really brilliant. The singing is credited to Susie Pins, but I couldn't find who that was, and some sources say it's you.
It's not me, it was ever so funny. A lot of people thought it was. You can't believe
It
that
looks
people
credible,
thought
yeah.
that I actually sung that. But people were coming up serious. Well, I didn't know you were an opera singer. I didn't either. Well, woken up one morning and
when you do all the internet searches, you are
Yeah.
sometimes credited with singing.
No.
And when you try and look up Susie Pins, there's nothing about her.
I think she was, if I remember rightly, she was quite an established opera singer, and her name was Susie Mins. And I think they just changed the name a little bit.
Oh, right. Oh, back to the drawing
But
board.
it's an amazing thing, because it was done in 2 takes.
Yeah.
That whole dance and the lip syncing was done in 2 takes.
Did you choreograph that yourself?
Yeah, just made it up on the spot.
It is fantastic.
There was absolutely no rehearsal whatsoever of it.
But you'd done some ballet as a child?
Yeah.
In Seaford?
Yes, yeah,
So
and Eastbourne.
Did you keep the ballet up into your
Till I
teens?
was yes, I did, yeah. Used to dance competitively.
Oh, wow.
And that was my old tutu that I wore in that, my original ballet tutu. I only just said goodbye to it recently. I found it in a box at home and I thought, looking a bit sad now. So I had to give it away.
Would you have liked to have done more acting?
I did enjoy acting, but I like the rawness of what we did in Jubilee. I'm not really, I'm not that fond of actresses who act like actresses. I like the way Derek treated acting, which was quite a raw way of doing it, and honest, really. I did do a stage play actually called
Did you?
The Secret of the Universe.
I didn't find that.
And it was by quite a well-known guy called Jonathan Gems, who wrote the screenplay for Mars Attacks. Do you remember? Does anyone know Mars? He wrote it. Yeah, it's a cracking film. Yeah, absolutely fabulous. And he wrote the screenplay for that, and he also wrote the script for the play that I was in. It was at the ICA.
So you've really done a lot of acting.
That was pretty hard hitting as well. Lots of rude words.
There's a book called England's Dreaming, which is about the Sex Pistols, and the guy who wrote it, John Savage, makes a point about women in punk. So he names you and Polystyrene and Susie Sue, and he mentions the Slits, so Viv Albertine and so on. And he said you all challenge the perennial pop demand that female performers are submissive and conventionally beautiful. Do you think punk was pro-feminist, or I wondered if it was like gender blind? You know,
I think you're right. I think it was gender blind. Yeah.
I made that up. You know.
Yeah. Did you? What just now? What was great about it was that men and girls and boys were equal. I think, and you know, like if you had a boyfriend, and probably you didn't want one anyway. But if you did, he would want to be stealing your makeup, and you'd want to steal it back off him. And
we were all in it together, and the girls scared the shit out of ordinary blokes.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you.
They wouldn't even bother.
No.
Terrifying.
Absolutely right. You're right.
And so that's why we're all in it together.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt.
No. It's a really, really good point because I had such a good thing once. I had this guy come to Vivian's shop. And he wrote me a letter first. It wasn't Adam, by the way, but it was someone else. And said he would do anything for me as a slave. So I could, quite seriously, he was deadly serious. I could treat him in any way that I wanted, kick him or hurt him, and tell him what to do. And he would do every bit of cleaning, anything that I wanted. To this day, I was so pissed off that I didn't take him up. Fed up or what? But yeah, frightened. Yeah, that's so true. So many people were dreadfully frightened of me.
It's hard to understand. It's so cuddly.
But as far as men and women go, it's a great thing that there was a huge, wonderful equality of males and females. In fact, it's not really sexually driven, the whole thing. It was more of a peacock, the way you looked, and that's how you got respect, is the way you looked, really.
No, you really get a strong impression of that, of the equality and the sort of asexual nature, that people were almost too busy and too fully occupied to worry about anything else. I was thinking about your time with Adam and the Ants, because I get the impression that was much more comfortable and less chaotic. Did you enjoy that time?
I loved it. Adam asked me to manage him, and he sent all those letters. The sending letter to Jordan was before. It's when we had 2 posts a day. We got 2 deliveries a day, and I'd get these letters twice a day for weeks. And eventually he asked me to manage him, and I went to see this gig, and it was chaotic, total madness. Everything blew up and nothing worked, and amps were flying all over the place. I think they did about 3 songs, and I thought it was great. Really enjoyed it. But I didn't really have enough money. I mean, you know, as a manager goes, you need a little bit of backup money-wise. But I had the love of it and the commitment, and we got by with what we could. We borrowed a van once. It was a gig in Birmingham. We borrowed a van from Haringey Council. Not that they knew it, but one of the band members, Mum worked for them. And it was one of these gas and petrol. You could swap from gas and petrol. Does anyone remember that?
No.
I mean, it could kill you. And it was this van, and it broke down really badly, about sort of 10 miles from Birmingham. Just blew up, the whole thing. And I had to hitch a ride with the whole band. So they all hid in a ditch, the M6. And I thumbed this lift in my rubber or leather or whatever I was wearing.
Did you get one? Did anybody stop?
This great big Arctic lorry shuddered to a halt about 300 yards down the road, and I casually walked up to it and said, he said, "Where are you going, love?" And I went, "We're going to Birmingham city centre." And he said, "Jump in." I said, "Well, there's a few more people." And he said, "Oh, well, who is it then?" And they had all their gear. They had the drums, all their guitars, the whole band. And it was all fitted in this cab, this front of this cab. And the guy went, "Oh, I won't forget this in a hurry." "What's the name of the band?" And I think Adam went, "Adam and the Ants." And we got there. And what's worse is that we reported the van to Haringey City Council, and they went and got another one for us. So not only were they not supposed to have given us the first one, they got another one to pick us up from where the first one broke down. And we got home all right.
There's a lovely picture of you with Andy Warhol in 1978, and I couldn't find anything to tell me where you met. All I could find was a quote from Vivienne Westwood saying that Andy Warhol was expecting to meet you. He knew he was meeting Vivienne, but he had an image of you in his head. And Vivienne said he was really disappointed to meet her because she wasn't you. But you obviously did meet him at some point, but where was that?
Met him several times, actually. I think 3 or 4 times. Firstly at his studio in New York, where he took some really, I'd love to find them. He was a great, prolific photographer, and he took many, many photos of people who visited him. Yeah. And he took some pictures of me. I know what I was wearing, a little leather pencil skirt and a cape that matched from a sex shop. And I had a big bouffant and the dark eyes. And it was wonderful. We shared an orange cake. He got one of his chaps to go to a bakery nearby. It's one of these little orange cakes, and we had half each, and we all shared it. And he took these wonderful photos of me, and he was into taxidermy.
Was he?
Yeah, and he had these penguins, little stuffed penguins. He lined up all these penguins around me. Little stuffed penguins.
Oh, it'd be great to find those.
I know. He just took so many photos. I don't know if they ever exist. You know, he showed me all of his art stuff as well. He had a great big room full of all his prints, and showed me all the
Made an
prints.
impression on you then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
very much, yeah. And then again, it was the ICA, that photo was taken of me and him in the Mall. It was one of his galleries.
So it's a
Gallery openings.
particularly nice photo.
I think it is
Yeah,
as
it's
well,